This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is October the 3rd. It's a Tuesday here, and we're so glad you could come along with us. We're going to take a look at what's going on in harvest and especially how we can be using the combines to get ready to fight soybean cyst nematode in next year's crop. We'll talk with Greg Tylka from Iowa State University. We'll also take a look at that ag weather outlook, but first let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Talking right now with Jacob Burks of agmarket.net, and Jacob, see a little bit of red on the screen compared to yesterday, but not too terribly bad. What did we see?
Yeah, it was not that deep of a red as it started out here in the soybeans, but a mixed day. It was kind of an awkwardly quiet day in the corn market. There's not a lot of news. You're looking mainly at some outside assessments of what the yield is going to be at the end of the marketing year from private analysts. You're seeing some just yield numbers come in that are probably a little bit better than expected. Is just what was expected. On the soybean side of things, though, just a continuation of some negativity in the crush numbers and just seeing a kind of a heavy load there, and the products are really pulling the beans down. Ended up having a 22 cent range in the front months, but rallied back at the close to even out some of those charts. Throughout the middle of the day, we broke a lot of technical support, but we came back and probably going to close here above them. So the corn and beans negative, and the wheat market. That's the positive note here. We saw some export sales today that went out to surprise to China, and that kind of got the wheat market at least comfortable anyway.
We've been talking about what we've seen here in Iowa, considering how much drought we went through this year, and it's not been a very ideal year. To hear that numbers have been what they've said better than expected, which doesn't mean anything necessarily to write home about, but considering how dry it's been, and we did get one substantiated report of 100 bushels per acre on a field of soybeans in southeast Iowa. And considering how dry southeast Iowa was this year, that's a testament to the technology. But of course, we're trying not to say that so loud that Chicago hears it. But the same token, that's still pretty impressive considering what we've been through. It means the rains have been coming just when we needed them.
Yeah, I wish I was an agronomist to understand how all that works. And I think, going into the end of the growing season, the biggest question was, we've been dry before with timely rains, and that's what we saw through a large part of the growing belt. But rarely I don't think we've ever seen the heat and the dryness come in that late in the crop year. And I don't think anybody really knew what to expect. I think there was a lot of assumptions, and I'm with you. I've talked to people from anywhere from, Indiana throughout the whole belt. Our footprint's pretty wide. And we have heard the same story over and over and over that it was, the expectations were maybe they were too low, but they were a lot better than expected. And rarely do you find anyone that is just, it's even worse than that they thought. So a testament to the yields and to the genetics for sure.
The only thing that really makes us have to go and bite our tongue, though, is how many times this year did we sit and question where USDA was pulling numbers from, and then you see that come out, and it's like, oh, maybe they were onto something.
Well, our surveys that we do are very unscientific. It's for the phone call and, hey, what do you got? So I do not want their job. I try to refrain from to throwing stones at them, because it's a job that is, who does a better job? Who does more, puts more work into it? And there's just really not. And, where you can get questionable is like the report we saw last week where, there's more bushels here, we'll put it in residual, and how that accounting, because I wish I could handle my accounting that way sometimes.
So switching over to livestock, what are we seeing? Cattle's been a rough go for the last couple of days, and it's been kind of just quiet, and hogs really, they've been looking like they called Mike Tyson a sissy the last couple of days.
Yeah, they brought their feeder cattle buddies along this time and got in the fight, and I was hoping we'd run out of time before we had to talk about cattle, because it's just an ugly technical trade right now. And you got some support back in the end of May where we saw these lows. We've seen this type of move before, but it just feels really, really heavy. And this is, in my opinion, coming from mostly the outside markets and the questionable economic situation that we're endeavoring. I mean, this is a news story that we've known the supply of this situation. We know what's out there and what's what's getting killed less and less. So the supply side of it is still a bullish supply side. There's going to be some weight put on this at some time. Hopefully we can find some of that support. We find the needed stability in our demand. We need to find some new demand, maybe with exports, and that's going to be hard to do with the dollar up. So there's just right now the market's trading negative. You got a large fund position that's saying, "Hey, I think we're about out of this deal," and they continue to pull out. We're down $5, over $5 in the feeder cattle today, in live cattle over $2.50 lower. So just an ugly trade there with the pork. Kind of the same deal. I mean, we're almost overpriced in the grocery store with whether it's poultry or pork. So maybe that will be some of the benefit that we see some prices come down retail wise, and maybe our demand will pick up.
All right. Well, if folks want to talk about some of the options they have out there, especially if they're looking at their 2024 marketing strategies, what's the best way for them to get in touch with all of you at agmarket.net?
Go look at our intel. That we got a 30-day free trial of all of our commentary. From there, you can take a look at the About Us page. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. We'd love to chat with you.
All right. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dustin. Appreciate it. Have a good week.
That again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Let's look at the closing numbers. Those come to us courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart.
December corn down 1 1/4 at 487.5. March down 1 1/2 at 502 1/4. November beans down 4 1/4 at 1272 3/4. January down 4 3/4 at 1292 even. Soy meal is down $4.40 at 363.20. Soy oil 40 cents lower at 59.45. Chicago wheat up 1 3/4 at 597 3/4. Minneapolis up 6 3/4 at 725 1/2. Kansas wheat up 6 1/2 at 683 1/4. Oats is up 2 3/4 at 454 1/2. December live cattle down $2.70 at 185.65. November feeders down $5.35 at 250.35. Lean hogs down 42 cents at 69.07. Pork cutouts down $1.05 at 78.80. Class 3 milk down 8 cents at 16.93.
And that's been a check of the ag market recap. We're going to take a quick break and hear from the Iowa Soybean Association. And when we come back, I sit down with Iowa State University Nematologist Dr. Greg Tylka. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we know that soybean cyst nematode is a pest that costs us a lot of money, but until you actually see what it's costing your individual acres, it doesn't always necessarily hit home. And that's why the SCN Coalition has a new tool called the SCN Profit Checker, which will allow you to enter some data and find out what exactly SCN is doing to your wallets on your acres. We'll also talk about how to get ahead of the battle against the nematodes with Dr. Greg Tylka of Iowa State University. We're talking right now with Greg Tylka. He's with Iowa State University as a nematologist and also with the Soybean Cyst Nematode, or SCN Coalition, I should say. We're talking today, Greg, about a new tool. And first of all, Greg, thanks for taking a few minutes to talk with us today.
My pleasure, Dustin. Always enjoy talking with you.
So, new online tool available now called the SCN Profit Checker. You want to tell us a little bit about what that is and what it's doing for farmers?
Sure. So the reason we created it is one of the problems with SCN, excuse me, is damage isn't obvious sometimes. So I see it in our data, but farmers aren't researchers, nor are the crop advisors. So we've already done the research over decades. And what we did was took data from 35,000 plots over 25 years. And we looked at the effects of major things in the field and how they affected the reproduction of SCN and yield loss. And so we developed an equation from those 35,000 plots, and it is now available in this app to have farmers and crop advisors use to get a feel for what SCN might be doing in reducing yields in a specific field.
And Greg, we've talked in the past, obviously SCN is not a battle you fight just one year and maybe not another. It can be an ongoing battle to really get on top of it. And so what kind of things are farmers going to need to enter in for data to help kind of incorporate with what you've already put into the program?
Yeah, excellent question. So we want to keep it relatively simple, but we need to include the important pieces of information. And so there's 4 pieces of information the farmer or crop advisor would enter. And the first one is an egg count based on a soil sample that was collected. And then the second thing is going to be a female index on PI 88788 resistance. And that's probably the most obscure piece of information of the 4 that we ask for. But that tells the calculator how well the nematode living in that field can reproduce on the widely available resistant variety. You get that number, that female index, from having something called an HG type test done. But we also have preloaded in the calculator a default value that a farmer can use, and it varies from state to state. So in our state, PI 88788 really isn't that effective. And so it's got a fairly high female index as the default index. Some farmers have fields with SCN that are even higher than that. Some they are lower, but the default index is a good starting point. So egg count, female index, and then 2 soil factors that we've learned greatly affect SCN reproduction and yield loss. And those are sand content of the field, and secondly, pH. So those are the 4 factual pieces of information the calculator asks for. It goes through the calculator and comes up with a percentage yield loss, but then the farmer or crop advisor can enter their yield expectation for the field and then the price, the sale price they hope to get for their crop, and that will convert that percentage into real dollars per cents, and that dollars per acre rather. And that's where we think it's really going to drive things home, how much money we're actually losing to SCN at the field level.
All right, so let's say I'm a farmer and I've entered this information, worked with my agronomist, and we figured out and calculated how much is lost.
Right.
Then once we have that information, I mean, what can we do with it? How can we go forward on fighting that battle against the nematodes?
Well, hopefully at that point, farmers will be on a mission to recover that yield loss, and it literally could be hundreds of dollars per acre. And so then we have the SCN Coalition with a website that has a bevy of information on how to manage SCN. There's management information available from seed companies, from the crop advisors. So a good place to start is the SCN Coalition, and the website for that is thescncoalition.com. And I should also mention that the website that takes you directly to the profit checker is scnprofitchecker.com. No spaces. scnprofitchecker.com.
Now, once this information is put into the app or into the tool,
Right.
does any of that come back as far as population numbers, anything like that, come back to the SCN Coalition or you at Iowa State, so you can get an idea of what's going on and how it's spreading?
Actually, at the moment, we've not talked about kind of chartering or charting, I should say, results. But that might be in future years where we decide to create a database and see how that goes. And we are talking also about working with soil laboratories to think about providing soil pH and a sand content for people who send in a sample for an SCN egg count. So that would be 3 of the 4 pieces of information that are needed. But at this point, we're not really planning on collecting those data and using them for any scientific purpose. We're really hoping it just motivates people, farmers and their crop advisors, to spend more effort thinking about actively managing soybean cyst nematode.
Now, Greg, I know a lot of times we talk in the springtime once plans are pretty well set in stone for what the planting season is going to look like. But as we're going through that harvest season, it's not too early to be thinking about how you're going to do battle if you've had to face soybean cyst nematode. Let's maybe remind our farmers again quick what kind of things they should be thinking about as they make those plans from the combine for 2024.
Excellent. So it's really a three-prong approach. Once you know you have soybean cyst nematode, you want to grow resistant soybean varieties in rotation with corn, which is a non-host, and then start working with the seed treatments to see what works well on an individual field. There is a new message I have this fall for farmers relating to resistant varieties. You and I have talked in the past about we've always had the same source of resistance genes for 30 some years, and the nematode has overcome that resistance. Well, I'm just putting finishing touches on annual list of resistant soybean varieties, and I'm happy to say we now have doubled the number of Peking SCN resistant varieties. Last year, it was 5% of the total varieties that we had. It's now 10%. And hopefully that'll continue to grow. So now is a time for every farmer who has SCN to start using Peking resistant SCN varieties, but they still need to keep rotating with the PI 88788 variety. So that's a message I'm going to drive home in the fall season, seed purchase season, as well as a winter meeting season.
All right, so let's remind our listeners one more time, and our viewers one more time, where they can find that information and also find that new online profit checker tool.
Okay, we'll start with the profit checker, and because that's going to motivate people to manage SCN. The profit checker website is scnprofitchecker.com with no spaces, scnprofitchecker.com. And the SCN Coalition website is thescncoalition.com, again with no spaces, thescncoalition.com. And that's going to have lots of management information for farmers and agronomists to take advantage of.
All right, Greg, that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else that we want to make sure we're getting out to the farmers here today?
No, other than I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the farmers on your program. And it's really frustrating for me to really know that there are dollars left in the field, hundreds of dollars left in the field. And if we can just turn up the heat on soybean cyst nematode and be a little more active and proactive in managing it, I think every farmer who has SCN is going to reap the rewards financially. And I'm here to help them do that.
That is Dr. Greg Tylka with Iowa State University, where he is a nematologist, and with the SCN Coalition. Greg, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That again was Dr. Greg Tylka of Iowa State University. Let's take a look at the ag weather outlook. Well, we had a little clouds to start the day, and the sun has broken through, but now more clouds are rolling our way. It's supposed to start cooling down here pretty soon. It might do that tomorrow, but really going to start to see that take shape Thursday into Friday. But let's see what the National Weather Service has to say for the next 24 hours.
Well, we started the day with more sun than clouds, but the clouds slowly built in from the west as they did across much of the state. And we saw highs stay just about where they were, maybe a slightly cooler in the west, with highs in the upper 70s to the upper 80s. Now, tonight, look for cloudy skies, chances of showers and storms across the state, and 55 to about 67 degrees on the overnight. Then tomorrow, showers are going to push off slowly to the east. Rain may linger a little bit longer there on the eastern side of the state, but then we'll start to see the sun and some cooler temperatures. We're going to see highs in the mid-60s to the upper 70s. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map tomorrow, Cherokee sunny skies and 66, Shenandoah sunny 75, Des Moines sunny and 77. Waterloo looked to be partly cloudy after the rain pushes away and 78. Albia going to see those showers linger a little bit longer there and a high of 78, maybe a few peaks of sun. Clinton will see that rain hang on throughout most of the day and a high of 77 degrees.
For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been the Ag Weather Outlook. With that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified each time we put out a new video project. Don't forget about our free market podcasts on Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson, Riley Smith, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.